Where are you, Green Dot? There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Awesemo.com Live Before Lock Show. We'll be taking you straight through to today's 13-game NFL slate. I'm Chris Spags. Apparently, I might be frozen on screen right now, and there's the audio coming back. But yeah, you have frozen me, and you have the currently very hurricane-frazzled and disappointed Josh Engelman, the Chubster. How are you doing, Josh, on the road, surviving this hurricane flow situation?
Yeah, I'm great. Broadcasting live from my hotel room for the first time in a while. Internet connection is starting to die. I think they've realized that I've been streaming here for a couple days. They're kind of sick of it. I don't know. I guess I'm ready to go watch some football.
It is a perfect time for a distraction. They probably think you're doing some illicit website pornography in your hotel room.
Yeah, just smashing the wife for 5 days.
But well recorded, hopefully well lit. If you want to check out, by the way, this stream will be good too. But we do have a video that's up right now that I did yesterday with Awesemo and Evan Silva, the Roto World guru, called On the Contrary, where we give some of our contrarian picks. You can listen to two things at once somehow. I think that'd be the best way to do it. Like, definitely keep watching this, but I don't know when else to plug it. So it's there.
Appreciate all the kind words in chat, by the way.
What was that?
I said I appreciate all the kind words in chat right now. Things are good.
Oh yes,
for me.
yes. Everybody's been very supportive of you. I see the tweets coming through on our Slack channel whenever people are tagging you and the main handle. Yeah, we've missed you. I mean, even though you've been around, it's been weird to not have your smiling face.
I miss it. I don't like it. I still don't know when I'm going to have power, so who knows?
At least you haven't floated away. We still have access to you somehow.
Very true.
Let's get into the slate stuff. Obviously, there's some injury news going on. Aaron Rodgers has been ruled in, so is Devontae Adams. Yep. Drop your questions in chat, not either or stuff, but if you have questions about specific players or games, drop them in the chat. We got a first one in, so why not? Let's start with the Redskins because nobody's talking about the Redskins. Robert Rodriguez, sup guys? Alex Smith throwing 4 touchdowns today in a GPP. What do you think about your boys in red, Josh?
Have a ton of Alex Smith, my most exposed quarterback across both sites. So I'm in. I'm in for Team Alex Smith. Yep.
Wow. Okay, so that's a bold call right away. Who are you stacking him with?
Mostly Paul Richardson. Some Crowder as well. Jordan Reed, obviously, but that's that reads differently. Reed.
Is Richardson in? I thought he was questionable, and I saw somebody say he wasn't going to play, so I actually took him out of one lineup.
As far as I know, he's in.
Okay. Yeah, that worried me a little bit. I do think Richardson's an interesting target. Not as much of a deep threat in that first game, but nobody was with Alex Smith. Alex Smith just threw it 5 yards pretty much every time.
Yeah, Richardson is active as of 23 minutes ago.
Okay, good. Yeah, I took him out of my lineup, but I think he's an interesting play. Just because he did seem like he was getting more of a look from Smith than Crowder was, but Smith was pretty agnostic overall target-wise. I think it was a pretty even distribution. Or besides Chris Thompson.
Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't mention Thompson as well. He's a guy that I'll have some exposure to just because he catches so many balls out of the backfield. So yeah, lots of Alex Smith, and that's FanDuel and DK. That's not just like site specific. I'm going to him both ways.
From a Vegas total perspective, it makes sense. I do worry a little bit about the pace of that game just because they're both dink and dunk teams, and that seems like it's going to kill a lot of clock. And you kind of see it in their play output from last week. The Colts they had 50 plays ran against them. Washington only had 51 plays ran against them. I don't know. I worry about the upside a little there, but it makes sense. What do you think about the Washington defense, by the way, going against Luck?
No comment, I guess. I mean, I have a lot of them, but I don't really ever care about defense. I'll have 20 different defenses across both sites, so it's not something that I take what I can get. It's essentially all randomness for me. For what you're trying to get a touchdown, basically. So, not super predictable. Right.
But Luck is a guy who'll throw it up, and he threw it over 50 times last game, and the Redskins got good pressure. The only reason I ask is I do think their defense is a little interesting, and I key in more on like let's say 1 through 5 defenses instead, where I'll have one that's kind of my main one. For me this week, that's the Chargers. Then the second one is like the Rams, and Washington's one who I kind of sprinkled in because I think Luck turns it over. And that defense looked really good versus Arizona, given Arizona's pretty bad looking so far. I don't know. I think the defense might actually be sneaky good and might be a low-key interesting play in this matchup.
Yeah, like I have them more than what we're projecting the field to be, but that's sort of mostly just randomness and price point. And apologies to everybody for not sharing my sheet during this show, but if I have stuff going on my main computer, I think this stream is going to die. So I've got the old laptop in front of me while I'm doing this. So two computering it for right now. Got to make do.
2 phones.
I got 2 computers. Yeah.
All right, so we opened up with one that's pretty contrarian, even though it's not the theme of this show. It is the theme of the other show. But who else, I guess, while we're doing that, who else are you going with? I'll give you mine. I talked to them yesterday. I'm all over the Browns, and I know Landry's getting a little chalkier, especially with Gordon being released. But I think that's a really good matchup for them. I love Tyrod. I have way too much Tyrod this week. My boats are either going to swim or sink based on Tyrod and George Kittle collectively. But Tyrod, I think, in a good spot, threw it downfield a lot. Obviously, the New Orleans team gave up a lot of downfield action to Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick also rushed 13 times last week, which I thought was interesting. Tyrod, obviously known to be a rushing quarterback. He'll get sacked some, so there's a risk that maybe he gets the New Orleans defense back on track. But I just think Tyrod's in a great spot. So I don't know. That's my spot. That's my Alex Smith. How do you feel about the Cleveland New Orleans game?
I have a little bit of Tyrod, but nothing crazy. Like I have way more just solo Jarvis Landry than anything else, particularly on DK, a little bit less so on FanDuel.
It's one of those things where I feel like I'm either really onto something or I'm being crazy, because I'm surprised people aren't chasing Tyrod more after what we just saw Fitzpatrick did. And back in New Orleans again, the Coors Field of the NFL.
Well, I think that having someone that can't complete passes like Tyrod is a little bit different. You know what you're getting out of Fitzgerald, whereas Tyrod is just sort of not great. At least not completing good passes.
That cancerous Josh Gordon is gone, so I think it'll all turn around for Tyrod. I think he was getting pressured a lot. I mean, despite the fact that he threw 40 passes, like the Steelers were breathing down his neck on every single play for the most part. They are a team who gets pretty good pressure, and Tyrod gives up sacks. I just think he's going to be able to get the ball out faster versus this team. And I mean, and also just if he does hold the ball, not be penalized quite as much as the Steelers would. And obviously Landry's going to pick up a ton of targets. The guys before us, Laffy and Ben, talked about Higgins a little bit, but I think Higgins is a really interesting play given the fact that he was on the field for 60% of the snaps last week. Obviously, Gordon being out some more, and he was getting targeted downfield. I just like this team a lot from a perspective of, hey, you get New Orleans, you come back with Cleveland, and that's the thing. I might be crazy, though. I might be.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't need a ton of Cleveland, but I'm cool with them.
Okay. As long as you're cool with them, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. I mean, I figured that's where you stood.
What about the New Orleans side? Obviously going to be a popular team today in a matchup that people will assume they're going to roll all over them. Who are you playing on the New Orleans side?
Basically not Breeze. Let me just move my stuff around so I could look at this a bit better. I don't really have any Breeze. I'll have a lot of Kamara. That's basically it for me on this side. That's probably not popular, but that's all. I'm also cool. Like I don't have any Breeze on FanDuel. I barely have him on DK. It's just Kamara for me. A little bit more Michael Thomas on FanDuel, but otherwise, I'm good. I don't really want to be on this game.
Really? I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, like, I'm not super worried about. Like, I don't think that it's all that great of a matchup for the Saints. Outside of Kamara, like, I mean, I'm gonna eat the chalk with Kamara. I think that is a particularly tasty matchup, just because he's a threat receiving. If this was just a running game for him, I might be a little bit more nervous. Browns D's not horrid, but yeah, I don't want to be there. I don't want to chase it. I don't want to chase the narrative of like, oh, they're mad, so they're going to play harder against the Browns.
Okay. I mean, I don't even think it's a play harder thing. I think it's that Cleveland can put up enough points against them. I think that defense, I mean, the crossing routes they got beaten by, and I know we're not a game film website, and I think that's sort of an ancillary data point, but the routes they were getting beaten by just over and over again were just guys running across the field. I mean, Mike Evans, who never gets yards after the catch, was running on plays. Obviously, we saw what Deshaun Jackson did. I don't know. I think this New Orleans defense is bad, and I think Cleveland is a team who can take advantage of it. And I think, you know, you're playing with a chip on your shoulder losing Gordon too. I think not a narrative place, but Somebody's got to pick up those targets, and I think they're going to have something to prove. And Njoku too, like another interesting spot. But if that game goes poorly, I'll be very sad today. So you guys can know that watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only like, I want it to go super poorly for Drew Brees.
I could live with that because I care more about Kamara, but I think
Same.
Brees is going to have an okay day.
I just have this weird feeling that it's going to be a lot of like Josh Hill scores a weird touchdown or like Austin Carr breaks an 80-yarder, and I can't go after that.
I actually had an Austin Carr lineup, and I was like, don't get too cute, Chris, because that was the thing I thought I did last week. I got a little too cute in certain spots, which we'll probably talk about throughout the next hour. But I think Austin Carr is too cute by a lot. Like Ted Ginn is not too cute. Austin Carr is too cute.
Yeah, I probably have more Ginn, at least on DraftKings from a reception standpoint. So I'm fine with that. But I have like 4 or 5% Ginn. I'm not going balls to the wall there.
Let's talk about another guy who's in that Kamara price range, who people are talking about in the chat. Todd Gurley. What are you doing with the Cardinals-Rams matchup?
Let's pull up the Rams here. Eating the chalk on Gurley as well. Too good of a spot. Too steady. I'd rather just have these guys like Kamara and Gurley, guys that are going to have almost guaranteed workloads, and then be unique on like with them over and over again. So lots of different combinations of these guys. So I'm with the field on Gurley on both sites.
So like that was sort of my philosophy too, and I guess we'll talk about one of the other chalky guys in a second. Possibly the most high-owned guy in the slate, James Conner. But to me, like that group of Gurley, Kamara, Conner, and Gordon, I think are just so much better than the guys, and people are talking themselves into, to Tevin Coleman and even Alfred Morris at some volume.
Yeah,
and
there.
Yeah, like I'll play a little bit of those guys. I think they're both in okay spots, but like I think you just got to jam in these guys because their workload is so big and the opportunity and the matchups are so great. I just don't see how it's not going to work out for them.
Yeah, I like Coleman quite a bit. I don't want to short him just because his price point is very similar to, reminds me of Connor last week, where he's just a guy that pretty much has to be involved. And since he's involved in the passing game as well, he's a guy that I'm eating the chalk on. It just makes it easier to make lineups.
But Coleman was the one guy I drew the line in the sand with. I just don't see it versus Carolina. I mean, like they really bottled up Zeke, and I think Zeke's still a good running back, even if Dallas isn't the best team. And Atlanta's obviously better than Dallas. But
yeah, Dallas doesn't have Sanu and Julio Jones split out wide either.
No. I mean, Allen Hurns, Julio Jones, pretty comparable, some might say.
The only people that are going to say that are probably Allen Hurns' parents.
Poor Allen Hurns only got like one target last week too. What a fucking dud. We need to get Josh Gordon desperately.
He would fit the Cowboys mold. They do like guys that do drugs from time to time.
I tweeted a joke about it. Like, as both a Cowboys fan and a lover of historical irony, that I would like to have Josh Gordon on the Cowboys. Like, I mean, it's nice that we go from coke to weed. That seems like a positive move.
Yeah, that's way more chill. Although, hey, coke got you Super Bowl, so who knows?
That's true. Here's a question about another pretty cheap guy while we're talking about the running back slate. Is Jalen Richard in the $3 too cute? I don't think it is. And I'm playing a lot of Jared Cook. Matthew Protowell asked about him. I think the Raiders team is really just trying to avoid throwing the ball downfield because they don't trust their team. Even though Gruden lashed Carr for not throwing it downfield, I think they don't want to throw downfield because they're terrified of getting blown up even worse than they already are. So I think the checkdowns are really where they want to go with Richard and Cook, and I think he's a pretty interesting play. Do you have any Raiders exposure in that Broncos matchup?
Just Cook, no Richard for me, but I do like Cook. That's just too good of a price point.
Yeah, Cook and Kittle, to me, I found hard to avoid this week because I think they're basically wide receivers in their offenses, and they're being charged or they're being valued as though they're tight ends. Yeah,
Kittle is another guy that I have a ton of, along with his handsome quarterback.
So Jimmy, I worry a little bit about. His point totals, obviously it's a small sample size. He's a young quarterback. It's a different team, all that stuff. He really hasn't had the big QB day that you need to win a GPP, like a large scale GPP. That kind of scared me off of him. I don't know. He is due. Obviously, that's a big data point we love to use here when a guy is just due. But I don't know. I like him. I do think he's in a good spot, but I kind of came off him a little just because I don't know that he has that 4 touchdown upside you need.
I've got a lot of the Niners, so I'm double the field at a minimum on Jimmy. Quite a bit of Pettis, quite a bit of Garcon, quite a bit of Kittle. I'm hoping that game breaks out.
It should. I mean, the Detroit team was so bad, but that's the part that worries me too. So let's talk about that matchup in general. I kind of think the Niners D is a sneaky play. Just because that team looked so bad, and the Niners D actually got pretty good pressure on a Minnesota team whose offensive line isn't that great, but is still definitely better than the Lions are. I think that might actually be a game where the Niners just run away with it. The Lions will still throw, obviously, because they just keep throwing. They pad their stats. We saw what they did with Galladay and Tate down the run there versus the Jets.
Speaking of Galladay, I have a ton of him.
I like Galladay too. I mean, he's a good player. He's so long too. He's like a really good prototypical receiver.
Yeah, I've like 3 times the field, 4 times the field, depending on the site. He's the guy that I have an overwhelming amount of. If he puts one in the end zone, I'm going to be a very happy camper.
I wouldn't be surprised. I like that. The issue I had with him is I like that price range way too much. You got Inouye there, you have Cobb, you have Galladay. I think there's somebody else who I'm forgetting right now. But like, there's like 4 or 5 receivers in that range who are all super appealing to me. And I kind of have less Galladay as a result, but I think Galladay might end up being the best one.
And a big reason that I have a lot of Galladay is one of my stack rules, and that'll be something good to talk about. Because I like Jimmy G so much, I always bring a wide receiver from the other team of a game. So in a lot of my Jimmy G lineups, I have Galladay or Tate or someone from the Lions. So that's naturally bringing me up as well.
Yeah, I think that does make sense to come back the other way. And that's actually something which Osimo talks about in his premium column that he mentioned the way that he attacks a slate. And one of the things he does mention is trying to come back with another team in certain matchups, or another player on the opposite side, rather, in certain matchups. So if you're a premium member, go check it out. I don't have the name in front of me. Nope, I don't have it in front of me.
I would help.
It's got a great name, though,
I'm sure.
Today. The lineup dude or something. Mr. Lineup, Alex Baker is what.
It's called the Premium NFL Breakdown.
There we go. Premium NFL Breakdown. Go check it out. It's the 3rd item on the homepage right now in the featured section. But it's an interesting look at the slate from Alex. He got a percentage of each player and his player pool going off and their teams and all that. So it's another little data-driven thing for you guys to check out to inform your decisions. Let's talk about Pettis for a second, also on the Niners, since we kind of glanced over him. $4,000. Another guy who is had a pretty good game last week. I think looked good on video. Definitely had some highlight catches, which made it everywhere. So I think he's kind of gained some chalk heat. What are you doing with Pettis?
I like him. I don't mind paying that ownership. And again, it's just sort of because of this game. I like having a little bit of Stafford. And when I do, I need to be coming back with someone from the Niners side. So Pettis is a naturally easy person to fit in just because of his price. I like him. I have more of him on DraftKings than I do, or more of him on FanDuel actually than I do on DraftKings. But I like him. It's a really nice spot. There's only so many weapons on the Niners right now, so I think that he kind of just has to be involved. If he's not, then the Lions probably smack the Niners.
Yeah, I agree. I think too. Evan Silva mentioned that Pettis had some college things yesterday. His skill as a returner, I guess, reportedly or like allegedly grades out well across all these different guys. And Evan Silva goes into depth about all these players who are top receivers in the NFL and their college returning stats. And apparently there's a pretty big correlation between the two. And Pettis was like a stellar college returner. And he grades out similarly to some of the Antonio Brown kind of comps from that perspective. So that's obviously a bit of a reach, but if he's getting targets, I think he's shown he can make plays with them, and that's all I care about. So I'm in on Pettis too.
I thought that was a really interesting point that I had never really thought of. But yeah, if you're going to be solid in the kick return game and elusive, I can see how that carries over if you're also into the NFL. I feel like being on a roster is the part that's hashing you out to have the wide receiver talent, and then that is sort of like the icing on the cake. So I'm interested to see how he plays because I thought that was really fun and something that I want to pay attention to in college football coming out more in the future.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have the hands still to pull it off, so you can't be like Ted Ginn, early Ted Ginn, but even he figured it out. I don't know. I think it is an interesting thing to kind of keep an eye on that I definitely never thought of as well. Let's do our 100-yard picks. We didn't do well last week. We went over 3 on our 100-yard picks with Jake.
It was so brutal.
We had last week we had Chris Hogan. You had Chris Hogan. I had David Johnson, and Jake had David Johnson. I had Alex Collins. Oof. Yeah, we all got steamrolled. So let's pick smarter this week. Who's your 100-yard guy?
Yeah, as if I have that ready right now.
I'll go James Conner.
Wow. Okay.
I fully believe in him.
It's 100 of rushing or 100 of receiving, correct? It's not
right, but it cannot
all-purpose
be total
yardage.
Yards. So Gordon kind of loses some appeal. Melvin Gordon loses some appeal.
Yeah, I was looking at Christian McCaffrey.
Oh yeah, there you go. You can get 100 receiving pretty easily though.
Yeah. You know what? I'm confident in this one. Give me Adam Thielen.
Ooh, I like that pick. Okay.
I like it.
I have a little bit of Thielen.
So if you like Thielen, fade him because I had Hogan last week and he sucked a big donger.
Well, the thing is, Thielen, is going to get the targets. Hogan just couldn't get the separation to get targets, but he still got targets downfield, just not enough, and he wasn't good enough to make any advantage of him.
It went so poorly. And I had quite a bit of him, just in general. No, it didn't work out well for me.
This week we'll get back on track. Let's talk about New England. Dustin Fenimore asking, can you talk about the New England backfield, who to play, if anyone? For me, it's a stay away. I wasn't very in on James White. A lot of the fantasy community was kind of touting him. I get the reasons why, but again, I would rather pay up and get the really elite running backs than try to get cute with PPR guys like White, whose roles are pretty fungible. So now that we know that Burkhead and Michelle are both supposed to be active, I don't see it. I don't see it versus Jacksonville. I know they're not great versus the run, but it's just not a matchup I want to be a part of. I'll play a little Brady, a little bit of Gronk just to try to get some ownership or leverage on the field, but the backfield I don't care about. I'm out on the New England side.
Yeah, if I were going to play anyone, I feel like I would want to play White, but I don't really want to play anyone.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see the reason.
No, neither do I.
What about Jacksonville? Obviously, TJ Yeldon. So this game worried me just because Fournette's the game time decision. He's apparently not likely to play, but he could play, and I just don't want to deal with that for a late game in particular. I just avoided that as well.
Yeah, that's not a place that I'm trying to go too aggressive. Let me pull it back up just so I have a little bit of Bortles, oddly enough. He's a guy that
worked well for me last week.
He's a guy that I won't stack with. Those are just solo shares of Bortles and hoping I hit on bigger wide receivers, especially on DraftKings where his price is so low. I'll have some Yeldon shares on FanDuel just because of the way that my lineups are structured, but I'm not trying to play that Fournette guessing game.
Yeah, no, I think Yeldon's a good play. I think he actually showed some similar per play upside to Yeldon last year. Also can catch the ball a little better, obviously, and gets targeted in the red zone, so that definitely helps. But I don't know. To me, just the guesswork of that game, and if then Fournette's ruled in last minute, I'm trying to figure out how to swap things in a late lineup, and having to construct a lineup then where I could make those moves was just very much a screw this moment for me that I didn't want to be a part of.
I hear you, man. Well, I had 40% Fournette last week, so I'm already a little salty.
No confirmation bias, though. No recency bias.
No, not at all. Me, never.
Big Ben over 500 yards. First, Jane Hall. James Conner won't be as good today. Okay, I get that thought process. Melvin Gordon ran all over these dudes last week. Melvin Gordon, not a guy who really puts up a high yard per carry number. And we know that Pittsburgh is committed to the run. They're going to jam it down the throat with Conner. I just don't see any reason to fade Conner. I get the logic. I get why people want. He's going to be very highly owned. At least a third of the slate will own him. I still don't care. I'll still be right with the field, maybe a little higher.
Yeah, he's a great play, but the people that are freaking out, like, oh, he's not going to put up the same week. Well, no shit. It was a pretty outlier week at a price point that's, outlandish. That doesn't make him a bad play this week. I like it. I have quite a bit of him because he should get a ton of opportunity both on the ground and receiving. And, those are the guys that I want to have. I'd be he's got a really high likelihood of scoring a touchdown today.
Yeah, I agree. And he looked good. I mean, like, I was pretty down on him going into last week. I definitely didn't play enough of him just because I didn't believe in his talent. I didn't think they were going to target him and use him like they did. He's not Le'Veon Bell, but who is? I think he's still an 80% of the way to what Bell is in that offense. And that's more than enough against this Kansas City team, who honestly might be the worst defense in the league, at least one of them.
Yeah, look, I want Connor. I have a ton of Antonio Brown. I have a ton of Juju. It's just a really good spot. I like having Roethlisberger. They're not playing in the slop weather of Cleveland. I assume that they're not going to turn the ball over 6 times again or whatever they did last week. Look, it's a really... I like it. I like it.
And they're back home, too, which is a nice benefit.
Significantly better at home, too.
Yeah, Ben in particular, much better home road splits. Also, just to point this out, Kansas City's defense gave up touchdowns 45.5% of the time on every drive. So that's how much, and they won. They beat Los Angeles, and they gave up a score 46% of the time. So that, like, I have no issue playing everybody on Pittsburgh. I have a couple onslaughts. I have a couple lineups that fade Connor too, and just go with Brown and Schuster. But like this team, I think you have to have some exposure to tonight, like in every lineup almost. Like there has to be some part of it that's used.
Yeah, I mean, in my stacks for Pittsburgh, it's 2+. So anytime that I have Roethlisberger, I have at least 2 of Connor, Brown, Schuster, Hunter, Jesse James.
Hunter's a sneaky one. I didn't play him at all, but it makes sense. I think he got 5 targets last week. He's a big body. You can get it in the red zone.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting play. But yeah, no, I think that game, I love that game, and I love Connor. I actually think I have less Brown than the field just because I'd rather pay up a running back than receiver, just to be honest. But
that's an interesting thing. I would much rather have Antonio Brown than a running back.
I get the logic for it. I just think Gurley and Kamara are both in smash spots, and
you should play on FanDuel.
I probably should, but I'm so stubborn and committed to DraftKings for no particular reason.
Yeah, that would fit for you.
Not
the stubbornness. I mean, like the FanDuel scoring system.
Oh yeah. Well, I still have Gurley. I do have Gurley Kamara lineups. I think I have Gurley Kamara Connor lineups on DraftKings because there is some wide receiver value out there. Let's talk more about the Chargers because a lot of people have been concerned about them going east to Buffalo. I think people are overthinking this one quite a bit. I'm all over the Chargers D. I'm all over the Chargers offense. I think this is the one thing I worry about is the Alex Collins situation where maybe they get too far ahead with it. But I think people who are worried about this game, I think, are wrong. I love the Chargers game and every part of it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of Gordon, a lot of Keenan Allen, but that's about it for me. I don't have a ton of interest in Rivers. I think he's a little. I think he's a little overexpensive. Yeah, Hunter is out.
Okay, my bad then. So I guess that's good. I didn't have many lineups. But yeah, no. To me, like Gordon, I think is such a high volume play. He got 13 targets last week. Obviously gets the ball in the backfield as a running back too, a pretty fair amount, just getting handoffs the normal way. And I think that Buffalo's very, very bad and very like I mean, there are a couple teams we said might be the worst defense in the league. They actually might be the worst defense in the league too. I just don't see any reason to fade them. I think people are getting too cute with that, and sometimes you just got to go up against a bad team and take what they give you.
100%. The Bills are just a shit show. I don't get the sense it's going to get any better. I just worry that Rivers can't put up the volume, and that's why I would just rather be on Melvin Gordon. And again, like for the Chargers, if you want to do it, I think your best bet is to go big with it. Get Allen, get one of the extra guys, whether that's whichever Williams you want or something along those lines.
My guy is Mike. I think Mike actually showed some good stuff. He had caught a lot of the balls. He had 83% catch rate in week 1, but also got downfield pretty well. And I think he's the guy, especially given Terrell Williams and Travis Benjamin. Benjamin's a little hurt. I don't know his status right now, injury-wise. But Williams also just dropped a couple passes last week. And Terrell Williams did, rather. So I think Mike is in a pretty interesting spot in at 3,700. Maybe a Pettis pivot or addition. I don't know.
Feels good. Rankings got updated 13 minutes ago.
There you go. Check those out. Ownership projections were updated also like an hour ago. So
yeah,
very big changes from yesterday. What else? Oh, Houston, Tennessee. That's a game we haven't talked about. People were touting a little in the chat before. What are you doing with Houston or Tennessee?
I mean, Tennessee, I don't really think you can do anything offensively outside of Dion Lewis. Like, we don't know if it's going to be Mariota the whole time or Gabbert, and honestly, neither of those things should be terribly interesting. So I have some Dion Lewis. That is basically it for me. Maybe 1 or 2 lines of Corey Davis. For Houston, though, I love DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't already know, but I would have expected him to be more popular than he is. He's a guy that I would like to jam into a bunch of lineups.
Yeah, I think this matchup could be sneaky. The thing that worries me is I feel like the Titans are just kind of a slog. And, even Miami, who had some big plays last week, you didn't really see a lot of output for Tannehill. And I kind of worry about that. The one thing, though, that does give me pause about that kind of view of it is that the Titans actually gave up a pretty decent air yards per target last week to Tannehill, 9.6, which would play right into the hands of Deshaun Watson, who likes to throw it downfield. His intended average air yards per target was 11.6 yards. So they're kind of throwing it the same range. It's a range that obviously Miami beat Tennessee with. So I think it is kind of a decent bounce back spot. But I don't know. The matchup, the total didn't do it for me. I kind of would have thought it would have been a little higher total. I like Hopkins. I like Watson a little. I could see going Fuller maybe. But there's so many other places to go that to me feel more steady and more something I buy into. And I don't know that I really ever bought into this game.
Yeah, and I would caution putting any weight in that Dolphins Titans game from last week after it took place over 9 fucking hours. So it's really hard to glean anything out of something like it's such a unique game, coming back and forth, multiple hour-long delays. So I'm trying not to pay attention too much to that game. Mostly I just want the talent in this game, which would be Hopkins and my lover Dion Lewis.
I do like Dion Lewis. I do worry though, I just didn't see the parts of the offense evolving with the Titans. Obviously, you're right, it was a very weird game when you have that many delays and stuff. But even still, you look at the Bears offense and how they changed things with Nagy and Helfrich kind of heading the offense. It looks different. It looks better. The Titans didn't look better and different the way I would have thought the Rams offensive coordinator would change it. And that's sort of what spooks me more than anything. I thought LaFleur was going to make, Lewis or Henry into his Todd Gurley, and maybe Lewis will be that, but the offense itself just wasn't there.
That's going to happen when you have Blaine Gabbert under center too.
That is a fair point. That is not the place you want to go. And Mariota, who cannot catch a break.
Now, pinched nerve in an elbow or whatever, fuck, man. It's not like you just put a cast on it and you're better.
No, that's going to haunt him for a while.
Yeah, it's haunting me. I had a lot of them.
How about another sneaky game? Actually, we talked about Miami, but this is also a sneaky game to me. Miami and the Jets. Any exposure to it at all? Any interest at all?
God, that sounds like a really, really terrible song.
Miami and the Jets.
Let me pull them both up here. So for Miami, I don't have them at all on DraftKings, anybody, anywhere. And that's kind of interesting to me because I had a ton of Stills and Amendola last week. On FanDuel, though, I have a bit of Tannehill, I have a bit of Drake, and then I'll have a couple lines of Stills and Amendola, but they just fit better on FanDuel than they do on DK. From the Jets side, just Quincy, and that's it.
I think people are chasing the Jets defense a little. I mean, and they're an okay value. According to Awesomo's rankings, they're a B in value as well. So I get the logic there. I don't think that defense is as good as they looked last week, though. That was just Detroit being god-awful and in a really unique and horrifying way. I don't think the Jets defense is the play for me. I didn't go to Miami, but I think I would be more inclined. I have a little bit of Stills, especially now that Parker's out. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
But everything else, not super sexy to me. The Jets, though, Darnold makes a lot of really interesting lineups work. A lot. He's at a really weird price, 5,100 on DraftKings.
Let me sort the quarterbacks. That's a tough sell for me.
he looked good last week, and I think the vibe noon was good. It's going to get better with Anderson. I don't know. And even like Sterling was moving the ball like a tight end, and not a guy I'm stacking at all, obviously. For me, it's just a noon one, a little bit of Anderson. But I think Darnold as a very low owned, I mean, under 2% owned play, could maybe throw 3 touchdowns. I don't know. I think he's interesting.
I'm going to say this out loud, and then we're going to scrub this video when it goes to shit again. But I'd rather have Sam Bradford.
Oh, okay.
And I do.
Wow. I'm as biased against Darnold as anybody, even though he's a USC guy. He has very bad flaws. He throws the ball into traffic way too much. He falls in love with his arm. I just think that like Miami's going to reward that in a way that the Titans didn't take advantage of. And I love the vibe with him and Enunwa. I think they're a pretty good duo. I
just look at it like this. I'm not going to put too much weight into week 1. And before the season started, we all assumed that the Jets were dog shit. And I'm going to just keep thinking that they're dog shit. It's not as if I came into this season thinking the Lions were good. So someone had to win that game. It just happened to be a really weird game. So yeah, I'm going to just try to avoid the Jets as much as I possibly can.
The Jets.
Do we want to talk about my Bradford take?
Let's just we'll talk Bradford, but the Jets offense last year was pretty good for the most part with Josh McCown, who is a more veteran quarterback and kind of fits that Ryan Fitzpatrick mold of a guy who can make enough happen to be valuable. But I do think they kept a lot of those 10 minutes and they got a noon one back, and I think, or 10 ints rather, and they got a noon one back. And I there's a lot of stuff I like about that Jets offense. I feel like they're a very good East-West kind of team. And that's a team who can get you a lot of yards. So I don't know. Look, I could be wrong about Darnold, but you could be wrong about Sam Bradford. Tell me why.
Oh, I'm certainly wrong about Sam Bradford. Yet here we are. DK in particular is the spot where I'm getting him a lot. I'm double the field on David Johnson. I'm comfortable there. And I'm going to have a decent amount of like Fitzgerald and Ricky Seals-Jones. I think the Cardinals are really, really bad. Let me just preface this right now. Sam Bradford's 4,800 on DK. And at the very least, David Johnson is someone that people think is good. And I'd like to agree with that. The fact that he's a guy that can catch passes makes me even more interested. I can't see them laying such a dramatic egg like they did last week against Washington. So I like a little bit of a dead cat bounce back here, hoping that like they can just catch lightning in a bottle. I don't want it to sound like I've got like 25% Sam Bradford or anything, but I do not mind having him and David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald.
So David Johnson and maybe Fitzgerald you could talk me into, and I think too the NFC West matchups do get a little weird sometimes, where even though the teams are on paper not super competitive, they do kind of play more even than they should. I don't see it, and I'm a guy who played a little Sam Bradford last week, so look, maybe a hint of bias there. But that total is so low, and the Rams are good, and they didn't even generate that good of a rush last week, which could be an issue. But if they do generate a rush, Bradford is just going to dump it off and do the same thing because he's terrified of getting hit, and that's going to cause more turnovers. And I just think that the Rams are in a perfect spot, and I don't see Arizona being able to keep up. But I get the logic. I'm a Darnold guy. I'd go with my Sam.
Yeah, I'll go with my Sam. Samuel
Bradford.
Chick-fil-A
bet on the Sams?
What's the bet? Fantasy points?
Yeah, highest score.
Let me look at it. Fuck it. Yeah, I'm in.
All right. Hey, our first NFL Chick-fil-A bet. That's exciting. There we go. It's on something so fucking stupid.
I guess I want to cheer for it, but I don't really want to cheer for it.
All right, we got it. First Chick-fil-A bet in the books, the Battle of the Sams. Sam Bradford versus Sam Darnold. I like it.
Oh, God. We are making some serious mistakes.
I can't believe I'm putting my hopes on another USC quarterback after T.T. Daniels just made me so sad yesterday versus Texas. That was such a downer of a game.
I forgot that college football was a thing.
I don't watch as much as a lot of people do, but I watch USC every week, and boy, they are not a good team, and they're very upsetting.
Yeah, they need to bring Sark back just drinking on the sidelines.
We just had so many bad coaching choices, including Sark, and my fear is they're going to fire the coach this year and then hire one of the another assistant, just because assistants always have like a good run because the coaches are like, it's a new coach. The players love that because it's something different. They're sick of the old guy, and then they win 3 games. They're like, this guy's amazing. He has to be our coach. And yeah, I don't know. USC is just frustrating. Anyway, Bradford, a hot take? Doubt it. Bradford is definitely a hot take.
Yeah, look, I don't have that much volume, but I have more than the 0% that we're projecting him at. That's all.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. Sam Bradford currently projected for under 1% ownership on the slate. So R&D, Bradford is a hot take. And if you want to learn more about ownership projections, you should become a premium member at Awesemo.com. Promo code, let's use Contrary because I'm not on the strategy show. Promo code Contrary will get you 1 week free of Awesemo. So go sign up now. 1 week of projections, articles, ownership projections, Awesemo's grades, the lineup builders, all that great stuff for you if you become a premium member now. So use promo code Contrary, get 1 week free. Go check that out. Way too much Aguilar for Marcos. What do you do with the Philly Tampa Bay game?
Let me open it up. I think I have quite a bit of Aguilar. Well, I have quite a bit of someone in this game, but we'll get to that. Philly Tampa Bay. This is probably the last game we could talk about, huh? Or we'll be close.
Yeah.
So on DK in particular, I have like a ton of Philly, tons of Aguilar, tons more than the field, tons of Zach Ertz, and tons of Mike Wallace.
I like Mike Wallace. 36.3 air yards per target last week. Getting downfield.
Yeah, it's I have quite a bit of Foles, Aguilar, Wallace, Ertz combos, but Ertz is one of my favorite tight ends of the day. The fact that we're only projecting him for 3% ownership on DraftKings is crazy to me.
Yeah,
he's just expensive, but I think that you can get there.
I've heard people talk about going to Gronk, and I think that that logic makes sense, but it's going to Ertz, I think, is the move. So I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm miles above the field on Ertz on both sides.
Yeah, I love Tyrod, and another guy I did fall in love with early in the process was Foles, and I kind of ended up pivoting my focus to Tyrod because I think. I mean, it's not actually an easier matchup because the Tampa Bay defense is atrocious in every possible way. I worry a little bit though about them leaning on Ajayi more, especially with Sproles out. Somebody asked about Corey Clement in the chat. Not for me. I think the guy I would go with is Ajayi and hope that he has one of those like 180-yard 2 TD games he used to have in Miami. I don't know that can occur, but I'm with you. This attack, something's going to happen on this Philadelphia side, and it's very low owned.
Agreed. I have a little bit of Foles. So I don't really have anything from the Bucks outside of my Foles lines having like Mike Evans coming back. But other than that, I just want sort of exposure to the Eagles pass catchers.
Are you coming back with anybody on Tampa Bay?
Just Evans.
I think it's interesting given what they did with Jones last week. Like, I mean, Jones got so many targets, and Evans does kind of fit that profile of where, you need to move the ball. Deshaun, I don't think is going to get open downfield quite as easily. Definitely Godwin neither. I could see Evans getting a similar outlook. So I actually have a little bit of Evans on that concept too.
Yeah, I just figure that Ryan Fitzpatrick will turn back into a pumpkin today.
That's also a very high possibility. I think he's a good quarterback, but this Philly matchup though is gonna really test him. If they win this game though, I would take Tampa Bay pretty seriously as not a contender, but a team who could contend for the playoffs at least.
Yeah, I think I still wouldn't do that. But that would be quite a pair of wins to start the season.
OG Blue asking thoughts on Zeke Elliott, which to be honest, I didn't really prepare the late games, so I don't really. Do you have any thoughts on the late game? Did you look at it all?
Don't even know who's Dallas play. The Giants?
Giants.
I didn't look at anything in the late game. Look, I've barely had the time to look at these games.
That is fair. I think Zeke is a pretty interesting play. The Giants worry me a little bit though. That defense looked a lot better with Betcher as their defensive coordinator after coming over from Arizona, and I thought he did a lot of stuff with Bortles that was pretty smart and got him spooked. The Dallas team kind of freaks me out too. I think the yards per rush does make sense. They gave up a pretty decent rush last week and last season as well. They give up a pretty decent rush amount per play. So I could see going Zeke. But yeah, that game is not super interesting to me. I might play it if I just am chomping at the bit after this slate for the afternoon, but not dying for that.
Who is the team that you need to succeed the most for you to be successful today? So basically, like, who are you most over the field on?
Definitely Cleveland. Definitely Cleveland and George Kittle and Jared Cook. That grouping is very necessary for me.
Remind me to save this clip.
Remind me to save it for when Cleveland throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns.
If Tyrod Taylor throws for 400 yards today, I'll jump off the top of this hotel. Has he ever thrown for 400 yards? Has he ever thrown for 300 yards?
He's probably at a 300. He has to bet 300. You know what? Hold on. We'll answer this question before we go off. What's your team?
Well, not Cleveland, although I do like some parts of Cleveland. I just can't imagine ever being like, the team that I want to have the most over the field on is the team that hasn't won in fucking 24 months.
I believe in the offense. Jarvis Landry said they're going to score 40 points a game, and I like Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis Landry must have got into Josh Gordon's stash. So the Redskins for me are going to be a team that I need quite a bit of above the field. The Eagles as well, because of that exposure I have to Ertz and Aguilar and Wallace. Who else do I have quite a bit over the field of? Atlanta. Lots of Tevin Coleman, lots of Mohamed Sanu, quite a bit of Matt Ryan. I'm with the field on Julio Jones, so I'm happy to be there.
So I did look up Tyrod Taylor's stats. Tyrod Taylor, Christmas Day of 2016, threw for 329 yards versus Miami. And 3 scores.
God, what did he ask Santa for?
And he ran for 60 yards.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he has to have 50-plus rushing yards and a touchdown.
Which I think he can do. Fitzpatrick did it.
Yeah. No, I like it a lot. Like, I like Tyrod in weird ways. He's not a great guy to stack, but I like it because he'll open up a lot of other options for you.
We'll find out. We'll find out how Rashard Higgins and Jarvis Landry and Tyrod Taylor hurt me today. Somebody had a good question, which I think just missed. People asking about the Jags. Did you go? I guess let's talk one more time about the Jags offense. You played Bortles, but no stacks at all, right?
Correct.
Okay, so no.
I mean, very little Bortles. It's not. What do I have here? 5% on DraftKings, and 9% on FanDuel.
That's the one thing which I'm not used to with football. Like, to get above the field with a guy, you really don't have to play a lot.
No. Well, it depends on the position. Quarterback in particular, it doesn't take a lot.
Yeah. But a lot of the skill position guys too. I just feel like relative to other sports, like, and even George Kittle, not according to our projections, not going to get over 20%. But like, to me, I mean, you never want to play a receiver 50%, even though I unequivocally am with George Kittle today. It just seems low. It seems low to have him under 20%.
Yeah, probably. Like, I think that's probably a little low, his expected ownership. But at the same time, you're looking at 26 options, and really, there aren't that many. Like, how many tight ends are actually legitimate options today? 4, 5?
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
So it's just hard to add up all of that exposure.
Yeah, no, it's
like a catcher in baseball.
Well, just mean overall though, that like the fact that Kittle doesn't draw 50%, I'm just surprised by how NFL shakes out after now playing like full seasons of NBA and MLB while doing this job. How NFL is shaking out with ownership so far.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
All right, we're locked. I guess any parting words for the folks before you have to go back to your hotel room hell?
No, just gonna chill today. We're gonna hit the road tomorrow towards my father-in-law's house. He lives about 90 minutes from our house, and then we're just gonna he has power, which is a good thing. We do not. We don't know when we will. So we just kind of have to wait it out from there until we find out when we can go home. So
everybody root for the Chubster, donate to hurricane causes if you win any tournaments today. It's a shitty life for even the people who aren't super affected by the hurricanes.
Yeah, like, look, I can't complain. Our house is fine, to my knowledge. Nothing hit it. Nothing is a problem. we just basically don't have power. So lots of people have it way worse. My Facebook has been just inundated with pictures of really bad, devastating damage in the area. So yeah, if you have the ability, people are going to need it.
Yeah, there you go. So donate to hurricane stuff. We, obviously not a mandatory thing, but it is nice. Mandatory though, like this video, subscribe to the channel, become a premium member of awesemo.com. Again, promo code Contrary will get you 1 week free. That's CONTRARY. Get you 1 week free trial to the Awesemo Premium memberships, all of the articles, all of the ownership projections and rankings, and deeper dive and all of this stuff. Really, lots of good content we're doing now. So go sign up. Promo code Contrary, 1 week free. And that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you guys again soon.
Thanks, guys.